Now, welcome everybody. Champions Cup final is upon us. As you know, it is Bordeaux against Leinster in 3 weeks' time in Bilbao, Saturday, 23rd of May. 2:45 kickoff. Not sure the rationale there. Not the most exciting kickoff time, but that's an academic point. Bilbao has good omens for Leinster, scene of their last triumph in Europe against Racing back in 2018 now. That is because Leinster beat Toulon in Dublin on Saturday, 29 points to 25, and Bordeaux beat Bath by 12 on the Sunday, 38-26. And of course, Ulster will play Montpellier on the Friday night in the Challenge Cup final. Our rugby coverage is sponsored by Energia, who proudly support the women's game in Ireland. There are still two big home fixtures to come in this year's Six Nations. First up, Ireland will take on Wales. That's in Belfast. That's this Friday. And then 17th of May, Aviva Stadium, they will host Scotland and very much targeting 2 wins. So lots to get into. I mean, a really interesting weekend, really interesting game in Dublin on Saturday. 29 points to 25 in front of 38,555 in the end at the Aviva Stadium. Tries from Jack Conan, Josh van der Fleer, Gary Ringrose, Caelan Doris. I guess in some ways the story is 29-25 from 29-11 is a little more uncomfortable than Leinster might have liked, but they won nonetheless. Eddie O'Sullivan, happy to say, is with us on the line. Hey Eddie, been a few weeks, very welcome.
Thanks, Joe. Great to be back.
I'll get into the game in a moment. If you don't mind, I'm curious for your take on Leo Cullen in the media afterwards, which is kind of caught people or struck people as pretty interesting. Largely uncharacteristic on his part. If people didn't see this, I suspect most people have. But he was just asked post-match a fairly general question about those last 10 minutes and how things went to touch awry for Leinster. And he said, you, as in the media, you just want to kick the boot into us, don't you? You guys love throwing the boot onto us when things don't go well. Whatever sells, because you read plenty of it. You'd love if everyone got behind the team, as in we would love it. You'd love if everyone got behind the team. And now when we're up against juggernauts of the game, because it's not easy doing this to win this competition, is it? We're the only Irish province left in the competition. And then he sort of went on to the Northampton game last year. And it's weird, like the Northampton game has really lived on in a way into this season. And he was saying about that game and the reporting around it last year. He said, yeah, look, strange things happened in that Northampton game and nobody wanted to report on them, did they? Did you report on the penalty try not awarded at the end of the game? Did you report on Pollock? Should have been a penalty under the posts. And that was, I guess, the general gist of what he was saying. Do you think that was premeditated, or does it just sometimes come out, the relief, the euphoria, the adrenaline dump of a win like that? You're a coach and you're almost just like, oh, I've been carrying this around for a while.
No, I don't believe for 1 second that Leo planned to make those statements. I think I was very surprised, as everybody else was, about his post-match comments. Leo, as we know, is very understated whether they win or lose. It's very mundane interview. Whether they win or lose, he's able to contain his emotions. And for some reason, and I'll give you my insight in a moment, he did go off piste, I thought, big time, particularly kind of having a run at the media. Probably never the best thing to do, and I mean that's up to him to have his say. But I just thought it was so the character for him, and I think it's down to the fact that the pressure's obviously building on Leinster to get a result, to get a European Championship. They've been so close so many times in recent years, and it's just fallen short. But I think that the way the game ended probably had him in a state of shock, to be honest, because they were so much in control of the game. I mean, I thought they looked a better team for 70 minutes. They were just in control of the game. Everything was going well from the set piece was going well. The lineup was working. The scrum was very dominant. In fact, they were on top of Toulon, the scrum, until Becca Gigiashvili came on. And he kind of put a bit of pressure back on Leinster. But their attack was flowing well. The tries they scored were absolutely wonderful to watch. Very well put together. Whether it was, multiple phases or off the tap penalty, putting Josh van der Fleer on a spot off the second pod. And they were just, I was looking at going, there's nobody can lose this game. They're just so comfortable here. And I think Toulon came to play. They wasn't the best attack to counter the blitz defence. I thought they might be a little more creative. So Leinster went top on defence as well. Like they were comfortable on D. They scrambled a bit, but they're very good at it. So they were in a situation where they were kind of home and hosed, and suddenly they almost contrived to lose the game in 10 minutes. An 18-point lead. And I think that the moment that probably the gut punch for Leo was that had that offload stuck in the 78 minute from Drain to Ikuvu, it was over. That's a fact. Now, it was a bad offload. It went forward. But my point is, had that stuck for some wild reason, Leinster are gone. They're dead. And then it's probably worse than the 22, 23 at La Rochelle, even last year to Northampton. It would have probably been an incredible disaster. And it came that close to one pass. And even you can argue that if Drain had gone to ground, there was no Leinsterman in sight to go for poach. It was a clear ruck. It would have been like a 4 nanosecond ruck, and it was way into the middle of the field. I mean, they were probably cooked, only that he threw their offload. And I think it realised his life flashed before him. I've had that myself. I remember in the World Cup in 03, playing Argentina, 1 point game. The clock was up and the referee decided to take a scrum. Back then, the TMOs didn't control the clock, and Argentina got a player around the corner, and it was just Gavin Dempsey between me and my career, and he put the guy into touch, and we won the game by a point. So there's moments that your life flashes before you, and that was such a big moment for Leo, and I think that shook him to his core. To think that they were cruising, 18 points up, 10 minutes on the clock, and it came down to one bad decision or a bad offload that saved him. And I think he was in shock. It's so unlike him to go into that mode. And it's interesting, he went back last year, because this has dwelt in it because of Northampton last year. He talked about the poor calls they got. He was trying to make the point, I think, the general point, that these big games are always going to be tight. They're always going to be down to moments. And he even went back to 2014. He said, you think back to the semi-final, we were away in France in 2014, and Wesley Fofana knocks the ball in over the try line. That's how we get to the final. It wasn't anything we did. And then when they went on to beat Ulster in the final.
In 12, yeah.
Yeah. He said 14, so I think he maybe got it wrong there. Just quoting him.
Okay.
I just quoting him directly. So, but my point is that he was kind of looking for reasons to get people to believe that this is so tight. This is unbelievably, skin tight stuff that we just barely get over the line. It's juggernauts against each other, and kind of playing down that they're not a juggernaut, which they are a juggernaut. You can't, like, teams look at Leinster and go, oh my God, they've got 20 internationals on the panel that they're starting. So I think he was in shock. He was trying to get across his point that this is always going to come down to the wire. But I think he knows in his heart of hearts that offload stuck and they went out, it would have been a catastrophe of monumental proportions. And how they would lose an 18-point lead in 10 minutes would be forever in history. It would be the worst of the worst of the worst. And I think there's a shock element to his response. Why he pivoted to attack the press a little bit, I don't know that. I think he just feels as well that they don't get their dues, and then in the heat of the moment that spilled out and it became about that. So I give him a pass in a sense, to be fair, as having been a coach. I give him a pass in a sense, like, there's no question in my mind when that line break happened at Chamonix and that offload stuck. He knew they were cooked, and I think he was shocked to his core. And it does create another problem for him going forward, which you can talk about as well. What does that mean for a team now like Leinster in those situations where they almost find a way to blow the game? And they did the week before in Benetton as well. So
that's such an
smaller
interesting.
stakes.
Yeah,
smaller stakes.
It's such an interesting interpretation, and it rings true what you're saying. There's the humanity of it, because we didn't evolve as a species to have lots of people scrutinising our every move and critiquing us, and it just gets on you, I suspect, after a time. And the fallout from the Northampton game has really fallen on the coaching ticket, I think, more so than the players. The Geordie Barrett decision, etc., and the sense that if they don't get over the line soon, Cullen's job he's under pressure for it, and he must have, as you said, he must have glimpsed Armageddon. And then your brain works very fast in these times, and
it stared them.
Yeah, and
right in the face.
And you must imagine, God, the media fallout from this, and they will just absolutely destroy me. And then suddenly you get out of jail, and that's probably just still, it's somewhere in your conscious.
It's a combination for him, I guess. And again, I'm trying to get inside his head, and I don't want to come across as a Monday morning quarterback, but Like it's the sense of relief. I don't think any euphoria on Saturday at the end for Leo. It was a sense of relief that we dodged a bullet here. And then the frustration that he's probably carried with him for a while, that he doesn't feel Leinster have gotten their dues over the years. And you know what? There's a point to that too, Joe. You know, I mean, like if you said here's a team that have been at the semi-final or the final of this tournament year in, year out, year in, year out, have just come up agonisingly short, they must be doing something right. And then you get all the negativity when it goes wrong. Like you might say, we might be better off going out in the first round, wouldn't be as half too much as hassle, which is a bit facetious. But my point is that he's listening to that every year. It does great on you, you know. And I think he knew they dodged a catastrophic bullet on the weekend, and I think the emotion of it got to him eventually. You know,
Yeah.
he just felt you guys aren't giving us our due. We're playing this razor tight game against these behemoths of teams, and we get no credit. But he knows in his heart of hearts that it was awful close to being probably the most difficult press conference of his career, and for Leinster. So I think the emotion got the better of him, and I think he probably overstated this case too. It is fair that Leinster do get a bit of a kick in, but I suppose when you're the top dog for so long, there's an element of you don't get too much. You don't get as much credit as you feel you should,
Yeah.
and you get probably hammered a little bit on the negative stuff more than any other team would. So I think there's two sides to it. I just thought it was a shock reaction for him,
Yeah.
realizing that he faced catastrophe and got around the other side of it. Literally, and literally straight after the game, so you're
Yeah.
you're still in the zone, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great analysis of it. Actually, everything you said there suddenly rang true. I mean, as for the content of what he said, you know, you referenced it to talk about the juggernauts that they're going up against. Implicitly positions Leinster as plucky underdogs, and as you said, 20
Oh,
international. I mean, it's the Irish team and throw in like a Kiwi, and
the
you know,
Lions,
and
it's the
yeah,
Lions
it's the
basically.
Lions. So
You know,
that doesn't ring true, and that's
no,
overstating the case, as you say. But then you know, and this is where I think the emotion came into it. He didn't just calmly, with unemotive language, say the criticism is OTT, or you don't give the team credit for what they achieved. The line he had was, "You guys love throwing the boot into us,"
yeah,
and I don't actually think that's true. The vast majority of the
very
press,
harsh.
a lot of whom are from Leinster, or certainly want
Yeah,
to see Irish rugby do well. Um, and I guess you know the other thing that just strikes you about Leinster, and so you said there's the nub of a point there, which is Leinster are in their ninth Champions Cup final, their fourth final in 5 seasons. Their fourth final in 5 seasons. So again, it's akin to Rory McIlroy, you know, contending in so many majors and coming up short. He's doing a lot right. Leinster are doing a lot right. The interesting question with Leinster is, what is like a baseline, a level of achievement? So making a final, you'd have to say is good, but you'd sort of say like Leinster, given their resources, what like a semi-final is kind of, it's close to about what you'd expect. And what kind of kills them is every other side really who's had their purple patch has converted. So Saracens come along, and when they have their golden period, they tend to win. La Rochelle come along under Rog, they have their golden period, they tend to win. Exeter swoop in when things are going well and nick one. You know what? That's a
yeah,
dagger for Leinster. Bordeaux are on the cusp of two in a row. Way back when the opponents on Saturday, Toulon have their period, they nick
yeah.
three.
And the problem is that Leinster have been the bridesmaids at all those.
Correct. Yeah,
That's the tough part.
yeah,
And you have, but and the expectation of Leinster is extraordinarily high, but it should be because you're on a test team playing in club rugby.
but
And
I think if they had won even one, say, in the
yeah,
last from
oh yeah,
2020 on, I think you know you forgive a Northampton all the quicker. I think, and when you're judging them, but when it starts to become such a regular trend, then
yeah.
I think the media and fans are inclined to say this is too much of a trend. Like this is starting to, the sample size now is fairly lengthy. Is there something not right? That's the question.
Well, they've had one hand on the trophy a few times and
Yeah,
slipped off. You know,
yeah,
I mean, La Rochelle probably the hardest ones to take. But I think that it is the expectation of Leinster is reasonable. Um, I think he did go over the top with reference to putting the boot in. I think he could have made his point without that sort of reference. But I think the emotion of the moment, the
yeah, yeah,
frustration,
yeah, yeah.
I think I give him a pass on it. I think the following morning he must have read it and said, you know what, yeah, I probably overcooked the pudding there, all right. But the truth of the matter is, though, there is a sense of truth. He does feel Leinster aren't treated fairly.
Mm,
That's his logic. He doesn't feel they get enough credit for being an extraordinarily successful team Like, I mean, they're in the dogfight at the end of each season in both competitions usually. So if
Yeah.
not, so I think there's a sense there, but I think his comments on Saturday were the shock element to him because to go back to the point is if that offload stuck, there's no way there's anyone going to catch. There's no way there's anyone going to catch Tui Silva.
Yeah.
He's under the sticks and it's curtains. And that was the shock element of that would have been. I mean, his life flashed before him. That's the only way to put it,
Yeah.
I know what he went through.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think he's entitled to a human moment as well. I really do. Because did you see he said even his son went home at half time? Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was
Well, Joe,
extraordinary.
this is interesting. The stress
Yeah.
on coaches' kids is extraordinary.
I
I
totally
mean, my
agree.
own
Yeah.
children went
Yeah.
through it. My
Yeah.
own children went through
I
it
bet.
when they're teenagers, and they're watching the game and they're totally like they're not even at the game. They're usually sitting at home or sitting with some family friends, and they're watching this drama unfold, and they know that their dad is going to get a pounding if it goes pear shaped,
Yeah.
and he does get a. They've seen him get a pounding before, so. I actually, it's worse on the kids because the coach signs up for it. They know what they're getting into. And there's, at the end of the day, you can be sympathetic, but you can't be too sympathetic. If you didn't want the gig, don't get on the horse. But the kids it's completely out of their control. And I've seen my own kids when they were very young, when Ireland were going through good and bad times, and it's wonderful and it's going well. And the same, like families go through trauma with this stuff. And we don't think of that at all. We just tend to think of the coaches getting a pounding. Like actually, it's actually tougher on the families. And I'm not so surprised when I read that. My heart went out to that child. I mean, what
Same.
the stress he had to go. I remember my son ringing home from the World Cup after the Argentina game, and I wanted to speak to him, and he was in bed with a migraine. He was like 12 years old. So I know exactly. I just that young fella must have been traumatized, and it's just the way it is. It's tough. You can't protect them from it. They go through every emotion you do, but they're not in control of anything.
Yeah.
It's tough on kids, believe me. I don't think people think about that.
Yeah. No, that struck me as in part why Cullen was so, and he wasn't emotional in his voice, but the sentiment was emotional because he must be well aware. God, yeah, I signed up for this. My kid didn't. Like my child couldn't take it to the extent that we're down to 13, and he just had to leave the
Yeah.
stadium. There's probably on some level, and I don't want to psychoanalyze the Cullens, but there on some level, Leo Cullen knows. Well, God, I'm inflicting this on the family almost. My vocation and what I'm
Hands
doing.
up.
Yeah,
Hands up. I
yeah,
did the same myself. Every coach does that if you've got kids. And I suppose we don't think about that at times, but it's just the way it rolls. But I can understand that when I actually, when I read about that, I thought, oh my God, I understand completely how that young fella felt.
yeah,
But back to the game, I have to say, Leinster looked the better team for 70 minutes, and then suddenly they fell apart. Again, they fell apart. It's no other way to put it. How do you concede 2 tries and potentially a third one to lose it in that frame of time? They just lost control of the game. A game for me that they were so comfortable in. They played some superb rugby. It was a brilliant performance. First 70 minutes, I just couldn't see Toulon coming back. I said these guys are dead and buried, especially when they got the final try. You think it's no way back here. And then I guess there's an element Toulon know there's nothing to lose, so they cut the straps and they go for it. And there's always a chance, but I think Leinster went into themselves. And there is that sense now with Leinster that, look, we've lost some big ones at the back end when we've been in control and we've lost control. This one was like we were in cruise control and we lost it. Like this carries on now into the final. It's really hard to get around that. So even if they're 2 scores up against Bordeaux and there's 50 minutes on the clock,
yeah.
the sense and then the anxiety around that can often send a team into a shell.
Well,
Guys getting
I think that's so interesting.
yeah.
That scar tissue because I think when Toulon make that break from deep in the 78th minute, and you press pause, everybody watching, I suspect Leo Cullen must have thought there's almost an air of destiny in a grim sort of way about Leinster in these moments, and so they've come through it this time. But the performance is therefore open to interpretation. Like everything we're just saying about Leinster at large over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it's open to interpretation. Are they doing really, really well and not getting the credit? Or are they doing like the minimum of what they should be doing and they just can't get over the line, or they're not achieving what they should? So this performance on Saturday is very much open to interpretation. So did you come away And we can get into specifics of what you thought was good and bad. But did you come away looking at this Leinster team going into a final saying, yeah, I'm glass half full about this? Or did you come away saying, God, no, there are vulnerabilities here that are just waiting to be exposed. They're fragile almost.
Well, it's kind of two things. The glass is half full because we know their potential, but they've had a sketchy season. They've lost more games this year in the URC than previously. There are frailties there, but the worrying thing for me is that teams now know that even if you're 2 scores down against Leinster, it's not over.
Okay.
Just need to get one, make it 1-score game, and the wheels start to wobble. And that's just a fact. The history is there to prove it. And Leinster know it. So actually, the probably most important part of Leinster's preparation for the final in Bilbao is between their ears. And if they get their head right for 80 minutes and they play to their potential, they have a very good chance of winning it. Don't get me wrong, Bordeaux are a really good outfit. I watched them take Bath to the woodshed a few times on the weekend. You know, that try the end from Bath just put a polish on it. It was double scores up to that point.
Yeah.
So this is a very good Bordeaux team, and they tasted success. But Leinster are right up there with them. Leinster are just as good as Bordeaux if they can get the job done. So it's a flip of a coin, and he's right. What he said about the game being, you know, down to moments, I suspect it will be down to moments in Bilbao. He's right about that. But the game last weekend shouldn't have come down to moments. They were
Yes.
home and hosed. So this is the thing that Leinster have to figure out is to find a way to keep playing when they know they have the game won and not go into protection mode, which they seem to go in on Saturday. And I think even Leo acknowledged that they went on the defensive and they started to set off Toulon, who had nothing to lose, and just threw caution to the wind. And that brought Toulon onto them. But you can't do that. It's just not the way it flies. You've got to have the courage of convictions and go and still take risks to get their head around that. I mean, they may find themselves as well in a situation where they will so likely to have a 2-score lead against Bordeaux. It's such a good team. Now, if they do, fair play to them. I mean, that'll be a hell of a day's work. But I just think there is a bit of an Achilles heel there they can't get away from at the moment. And had they closed out that game on the weekend, hadn't scored, given up those late tries, it would have been, yeah, we've got it together. But now all the questions re-emerge, which is the reason they're good questions. There's nothing wrong with asking those questions. How do you nearly blow an 18-point lead in 10 minutes, which they nearly did?
The Leinster defence, which is a talking point, obviously, for some time now, seemed to be very much on top for the majority of the game, for the first 65 odd minutes. I saw Brett Igo, works as a coach, did a piece of analysis, for instance, and he was, I thought it was a very interesting point. He was, Toulon in the top 14 don't necessarily come up against blitz defences all that often, and was saying awful lot of rucks, awful lot of plays, if you can imagine it, without, it's hard to get technical when people are just listening to us, but ball receivers were like a long way away from rucks, and they were widely spaced out, and therefore the ball is travelling through the air quite a lot. Like I've heard Raj talk before, and anyone talk about beating a blitz defence, everyone in tight, move the ball, point of attack last minute, that kind of stuff. But these kind of long floaty passes too often, and the Leinster defence largely ate that up and were very comfortable getting up in Toulon faces.
That's a really good observation, because you're right in pointing that out. I think Toulon believed that they got width on their attack, get people out wide into space, and they could throw long passes into the wide spaces. They would get round the corner. No, it doesn't work like that. That was a really bad plan. Now, the stuff at the end was kind of, they played off the cuff. Chabanet's break was a moment of brilliant feat, got round someone. But just go back to the broader picture here. Like, the trouble with the long passes in the air so long, the hang time, that it suits the blitz defence. They either come up and they crucify the receiver, or they pick it off and they go over the length of the field. So I think that's why they were so comfortable on Saturday. Toulon's attack plan was really not a good attack plan. Against the blitz defence, you can throw one long pass, and that's usually the first pass, and the second one's the killer that goes out the back, a short pass to a runner. And actually, you saw, worryingly, Bordeaux did that to Bath for one of their first tries in the weekend. Bath got narrow, and they threw a spot pass out the back off the second receiver, and it was a running. And it's interesting, like, Noel McNamara is a very smart coach. I don't know Noel really that well, but I know of him, and I know he's a technically very good coach. He could be the key for Bordeaux winning this. If he puts together a game plan to crack the blitz. And the thing that worries me is that I've been saying this all season. Someday, some coach is going to come up with a really, really smart, structured attack, a game plan to beat a blitz. And if it clicks, we know the blitz is all or nothing. And if he gets throwing numbers around the corner with their wings, I mean, it's curtains.
Yeah.
So Noel McNamara could be the piece of the jigsaw that undoes Leinster. Now, if Bordeaux don't put a really good game plan together, the blitz works on that basis that the other team are not sure what they're doing against it.
Yeah.
And then you pick them off. So that to me would be a very interesting watch. And but I do think Noel McNamara is a very smart coach. Interestingly, you saw one of Benetton's tries last weekend was exactly how to break a blitz. It was a spot off a second receiver, they got around the corner and scored.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, my worry for Leinster on their defence is the team they play on any given day come up with the right game plan to crack that defence. And then there's a lot of line breaks out wide. Now, what Leinster do against line breaks very successfully is to scramble brilliantly. It's to turn and burn. Let's turn and burn and reel them in. And you saw that actually. Olani reeled in the break. But with the pace Bordeaux have,
yes,
your scramble is probably going to get fried. You know,
hard to reel in Bilberry when he's moving. And so, do you that last 10-15 minutes then? Combination presumably of Toulon cutting loose, going for broke, and you know, I don't remember it in real time, but just reading various match reports today, there's a consensus that the line speed slowed owing to injuries, changes in personnel. Did Leinster slow down as well, and Toulon had more room to breathe? What was your sense of what happened in the last 10 minutes?
It was like two or three things coming together. One is, you're right, you know, Toulon just cut loose. They had nothing to lose this stage. They're 3 scores down. If we lose by 4 scores, doesn't matter. They have gas on the edge. They got to the edges. Leinster's line speed did slow a bit. A bit of that is you start to worry in your head, oh my God, they're coming at us, and you don't get off the line as hard. Yeah. Or guys get off the line isolated and they get picked off. And Leinster do come over the line in isolation, and it's great if you make the hit because the ball stops, but if you come over the line on a blitz or even on a drift defence, you have to stop the football. If you don't stop the football, it's a line break.
That's what led to, and I'm out of my depth talking tactics, but that's what led to the break that ultimately was stopped in the 78th minute.
That's right. Jamine got feet on a shooter, got feet on a shooter, got round the corner, and that was it.
But it looked far too easy. It really.
Well, you see, when you come up to 100 miles an hour, you must make contact, because if the guy steps marginally off your line of tackle, you're fried.
Yeah.
You can't turn. It's like driving a car at 100 miles an hour and trying to turn a corner. Yeah. You won't get around the corner. So, like, it's that you're so committed to the contact that if the contact isn't there when you arrive, there's no contact. And that's what happened with shooters. But Leinster have succeeded that a bit. They've scrambled off those and saved themselves a lot of times, but throughout the season. But I just think that that last 10 minutes, they did it. Leo acknowledged as well, to be fair to him, he said, we did try and defend rather than attack. We set off a bit. We gave them the edges. They had nothing to lose. We kind of brought them onto us. Yeah. And their consequences. And the problem with the blitz defence, and if it works, it's outstanding. It's claustrophobic, and we see when it does. But if it doesn't work, it's also catastrophic in the other direction, because you don't have any recovery. The scramble is your only chance. And if teams have gas on the edge, I'm so serious gas, the scramble mightn't work. They get around the corner. You just want to reel them in. Okay, so that's such an intriguing kind of state of affairs going into the final. The Leinster attack then, you said earlier on you thought it looked really good, because that's been a criticism this year in Leinster, but it was good. Good Saturday. I definitely thought it looked very polished at times. I think they were moving the point of contact. What they've done really well when Leinster are in their zone in attack, right, is they have big horses who can carry into you and knock you on your backside and win collisions. And they're also very good at moving the point of contact, so you don't know where they're coming. Yeah. So the classic one leading us off a set play was they ran the double pod on the tap penalty for Josh van der Fleer's try. They went across the front pod, so the guys sitting down the front pod are dead. It goes to the second pod, it goes out the back off Doris, and the Fleers onto the sticks. Yeah. It's that sort of ability to move the strike point. So they've such. Did you hear Dan Sheehan saying on the referee mic, "You're probably about right where you are," as in. We're about to go that way, so you don't stand there. It was amazing. Like, obviously, there's no time to get their message down to the players, but loud as you like on the mic, it was like, you stay where you are there, because we're going this way. Fine. Because Sheehan knows exactly what's going to happen, and the ref doesn't know, and he's kind of coaching the ref not to get in the way. It's brilliant. But I have to say that when they have big enough horses to run over you, and then when they start to move the strike point
Yeah.
on the front foot, it's very hard to pin them down. Like you're going to miss tackles. You're going to have soft shoulders. The soft shoulders gives quick ruck. The quick ruck is quick ball. Quick ball gives options, and it's a cycle of decline for the defense. And the attack looks like it's in training mode. And when Leinster get that done, I mean they are top drawer. And I thought for most of the game they were very, very good. Not they didn't have mistakes, but over 80 minutes I thought their tries were very polished, very well put together. And to me, they look so comfortable. That's my point. I just couldn't see how they're going to lose it.
Well, the handling was crisp as well. I mean, that's been a talking point this year, but there was a real crispness to the handling.
It was, and the passes were on the money.
Yeah.
And that helps immensely as well when guys are accurate. But I guess at that level, it's time. It's the end of the season. It's dry ball.
Yeah.
If you can't hit the passes on a day like that, you're going to struggle on another day, you know.
Do Leinster have a discipline problem? Is that a question down to 13 men? Obviously, the Porter high tackle, the Harry Byrne offside. I mean, no one loves being down to 13 men, but is that a trend you see in them? Are they giving away too many soft penalties, or are they okay?
I think they're a bit like most teams when they get under the cosh. There's two things about the blitz that put them at probably a little more risk than other teams. Is you come up so fast to make a tackle, you're out of control. So if the guy changes direction, there's a good chance if you're not in the perfect position, you're going to collide with him. Is that collision your shoulder on his head or your head in his head? There's a higher risk because when you sprint up like that to make a tackle, you're not in complete control of your body. Yeah. You're just trying to smack a guy. And if he changes direction, you're vulnerable to hitting the guy in the head, and then it's yellow, red card territory. The second one as well is I guess that if you're trying to get off the line so hard on the blitz, that you often creep offside because it's all about taking away the space. So you're on the verge of offside the whole game. So there's no question at some point the ref's going to ping you a few times to keep you honest. And I suppose like they've lived on that the whole season. So there are times when they're under the cosh they tend to give up offside penalties because they're trying to get up and take away the space. And one of the problems you have as well is if the other team win collisions against that blitz and they get quick ball, you can't get off the line. And this is why Leinster do really well. If you watch it, they attack every ruck like crazy, and not that they're going to win the ruck, but it slows the ball down. The scrum half can't clear it, and that 2 seconds it takes for the other team to settle the ruck means the line's set and they're off the line. Yeah. If that ball is out like in a second, they can't get off the line, and then fellas are jumping out of the line trying to kill it off. So a quick ball will cause lots of problems for you. And again, you know, looking at Bordeaux, they have some big horses as well. It'll be. The physicality stakes will determine a lot of that, you know.
That offside was Harry Byrne. A word on in general play, and then shaky with the boot, which is not like him.
I thought his general play was good. I mean, I thought the thing that let him down was his boot. You know, it's not. He missed 2 very kickable kicks. I mean, the conversion was missed. He was off the field. That was Gary Ringworth's missed that conversion of his own try, I think. Yeah. So I thought Byrne played well. He looked really. The other thing I liked about him is, a few times he had options outside him, but he saw a soft shoulder. He went himself in the build-up, I think, to, if it's not, it might have been, I think the build-up to either Jack Conan's try or Gibson Park's try. He had a run himself. He got in behind the defence. He saw the dummy and went. So I think when you see an hour half like that, he's comfortable on his feet. His distribution was good. He kept the strike point moving, and he was not afraid of a crack himself. I thought overall he did very well. I think he doesn't miss kicks, to be fair. When he misses a few, we tend to colour our thinking on the game more than that. Yeah. For me, I thought he did well. No, did he have a flawless game? Did he make every decision the right decision? No, but what 10 does, you know, you can nitpick it. But my point is, when I say Leinster's attack looked very fluid, he's the key guy in it. He's the guy pulling the strings. So if he's having a bad day, the attack is probably more stagnant. But I have to say, on a balance of the 70 minutes where he was playing with the ball, I thought he was very, very good.
Leinster will have a decision to make for the final regarding Prendergast, who came off the bench. Kieran Frawley not in the match day 23. That effort at the tackle looms large in thinking. I mean, it was kind of for him, it's a disastrous moment, really, because it's just so glaringly on him, and he really should do better, to say the least. And it could have been such a consequential moment. I mean, it could have been season defining. You feel like his teammates will be looking at that going, we can't have this. However talented the word is that you are running the team in so many ways and running the attack. It was just a jarring moment because it was so out of sync with how the majority, if not all, the Leinster players had been tackling all afternoon.
Yeah, it was a disastrous moment for him because it wasn't a difficult tackle to make. It's not like it's a 6'4" prop running at him. It was a winger, and the winger was standing. The ball was a cross kick, so he took it over his head standing. All Sam had to do was dip down, wrap him around the knees, and hold on for dear life. They didn't have to put him into touch. Next guy would have put him into touch, would have been turnover. Now they were coming back for the penalty. Don't get me wrong, it was an advantage kick, so but he really should have made that tackle by any metric. It wasn't a difficult tackle, and he went up and he pawed at him. You know,
Yeah.
he tried to glom at him, and Duran just pushed him away and ran it like battered him off like a kid. You know, so that is a worry. Like I mean, we've been talking. I
I
don't want
know.
to be unfair to Sam, you
Yeah.
know, but it is a huge flaw in his game. Is his tackling, and we give him excuses sometimes. We say, you know, he's not the biggest guy. He does his best, but you got to make that tackle. The size has nothing to do with that. And it was a really bad moment. And that almost, you know, at the end of the day could have cost him the game because he puts Duran into touch there, or Duran is put into touch. They're coming back for the penalty, and then they have to defend again. But the point is, you're defending with 15 guys in front of the ball. So I just thought it was a really bad look for him, and you can't hide from that. You've got to do better than that.
Yeah, it's especially high profile moment. And just one last one, because I want to get a thought from you on Bordeaux and the final. I guess the less foretold aspect of this game was that the Leinster pack were, I mean, the scrum was a huge worry going into the game. There was almost an assumption Leinster might do well to break even, and even the likes of someone like Porter, is he fit? Is he not fit? I mean, he's not just doing a number in the scrum; he's kind of rampaging. So, like Leinster up front were completely dominant in this game as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought my take on the game is Leinster were comfortable everywhere.
Yeah,
And the pack did exceptionally well. The set piece was very, very good. The scrum, they dominated the scrum
yeah,
until the substitution when they brought in Kushvili. And then they won a penalty straight away. But in fairness, I thought Porter was outstanding. He had a massive line break for I think was it one of the first two tries. He took a pass and went through, stopped under the post. He was like on fire, you know. So that Leinster pack is as good a club pack as you're going to see in anywhere, you know,
yeah,
anywhere in the world. So now I think again that their hands are full against Bordeaux. Bordeaux have a very physical team, very typical top 14, a lot of explosiveness, big energy. I mean, looking at that game, the energy level I would say on the game between Bath was slightly higher between Bath and Bordeaux than it was between Leinster and Toulon. Slightly higher.
right.
Just there's a little more edge to it, a little more intensity. That might be in my imagination. But I thought, when I looked at it, comparing the two, it looked just a nudge higher. Now, that said, I don't think Leinster have to fear Bordeaux in terms of physicality, but I don't think they'll dominate them
Okay.
as physically as they have with other teams. And I thought on times on Saturday that they dominated Toulon physically. Will they get that domination against Bordeaux? Hard to say, to be honest. I think Bordeaux would mix that up pretty well. And then Bordeaux have really smart halfbacks. Maxine Luku, I know Maxine Luku. I coached him in Biarritz. He was in my academy.
Right.
In fact, he played a whole season. He was, or scrum half was injured. He was an academy player. He played the whole season for Biarritz, and is a really smart player. And Jalabert is world class as well. So they have a lot. They can probably match Leinster in terms of ability. So to be fair, it's the two best teams in Europe going at it. I
Yeah.
think from what you've seen. So I think if Leo was, we called him out and saying there was tight margins and playing, juggernauts. This is two juggernauts in Bordeaux and Leinster. So it is a game that could change on anything. But my worry for Leinster is Bordeaux get a game plan that'll crack the blitz. That's my only worry. If they don't, I think Leinster probably win it. Their defence will win the game for
And
them. They just have they're doing it to the point where it's feverishly successful when
yeah,
teams don't know what they're doing against it. But my worry is for Leinster's Noel McNamara will have to figure out something.
something. Yeah, I mean, and he's an extraordinary story as well. His career. So, like, I presume, especially going into a final, it's unlikely. But so, say you're all in on the blitz, and you're playing against a team like Bordeaux, who are such an attacking threat in so many ways. Like, will there be a plan B, do you suspect, in the Leinster dressing room whereby, what if in the first 15 minutes Bordeaux bust you open four, five, six times and the scramble has worked three of those six times, but you've conceded two, three tries? I mean, it's borderline kamikaze to be like, guys, stick with the blitz.
Yeah. You can't. If Bordeaux are cracking them open, you can't scramble for 80 minutes.
Yeah. So
Like at a golf,
do you think they'd say, right,
yeah.
let's put the brakes on the blitz, everyone, and just
It
steady
will
up for.
be a, it will be a massive mission that the splits isn't what it should have been. You know what I mean? I just don't see them do it. I think they'll double down. I mean, no, unless they,
Blitz harder.
but unless, and this could be a real curveball, they change going into the game.
Yeah.
They start with a drift.
Yeah.
That would throw a total curveball at Bordeaux. But Linaber has coached the splits for successfully for so many years, 2 World Cups medals in his locker. I can't see him changing away for one game. But it will be a very interesting strategy. I did it before. I've done the other way. I've got into games where teams expect us to blitz,
Yeah.
or they expect us to drift, and we blitzed them. I did it in New Zealand, and it threw them out a terrible curveball on a wet night, and they get all flustered.
Yeah.
But it's a massive. It'd be a massive shift for them. They could do it though, because all those guys can drift if they're told to.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much invested in the blitz. I don't think see them doing it. And if they get cracked, I don't see them changing in midstream either. I mean, they'll probably just double down harder. But if they get cracked, I mean, if they get cracked 4 or 5 times against that sort of talent, it's probably 25 points in the bag, you know, and that's a big giveaway.
Yeah. And looking at the two teams on paper, I'm not going to ask you to list out a combined 15. I suppose I'm just trying to get a sense of who has the most talent, who is the better team on paper. If you were like having a combined 15,
Yeah.
would it be fairly even in the split, or is one side markedly better on paper than the other?
On reputation, Leinster have the edge because of the number of test players.
Okay.
But having said that, if you look at the caliber of player Bordeaux have, you sat down, you just argued from a rugby perspective. You'd probably take you 5 hours to pick the best 15 out of that.
Okay, so
I
this
mean, you
is
could argue the toss
tight.
in every position. You
Right,
know,
okay.
there's not that much in it, to be fair. So, and I think Leinster know that. You know, they know what they're up against. This is a really good Bordeaux team. They've done it last year as well. They've tasted it before. Do that mean they want it less this year? I don't think so. I think they sense that this Bordeaux team are having their era in French rugby, and
Yeah,
they
and
want to
it's
double
been that
down.
kind of a tournament, hasn't it? You tend to you can win several, seems to be the trend.
Yes, I mean we saw teams like Toulon doing it for years. We saw Saracens do it in their time. Raj had a run at it
Yeah.
with La Rochelle. He was very unlucky not to win a top 14. Lost the top 14 to lose last play of the game. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Leinster once upon a time.
yeah. So I mean, like they Bordeaux feel it's their era, I think, and that means they're going to be pretty hard to crack.
Okay. Very short break. I just want to get your thoughts on one more thing in a sec. Eddie O'Sullivan is still with us. TV directors is the big controversy from that Bordeaux win against Bath. So I suspect you've seen this, the high tackle, Bath number 8. Alfie Barbary tackled by Maxime Luku, your friend. And listening to Andy Good, for instance, he was doing it for Premier Sports, and so there is just the feed that everyone takes. It's not like Premier are in control of the pictures or otherwise, and there are different protocols weirdly in place for different competitions. So the Champions Cup is different to the URC and different again to the Six Nations. And in terms of budget and everything, Six Nations, when it comes to what TMOs have access to, is unimpeachable. You know, they're in complete control of every picture. TMO can look at everything in the truck on demand. Show me this. I want to have a look at that again. Show me this. And doesn't have to stop the game to do it, and isn't reliant on the director to just show it again to the TV audience. So Six Nations TMO is working away on everything in the background and has access to everything. Whereas, and URC, for the purpose of this conversation, we won't go into the granular detail. URC is somewhere in the middle. They can request certain things, but they can get it. Whereas Champions Cup, you know, this huge tournament, it's like TMO is at the behest of the TV director, unless TMO on the one shot he or she gets can say, do you know what? Stop the game. Stop the game. I want to examine this. And they're obviously loath to do that. So Andy Good was talking about Eddie, and he was saying that he has access through his headphones and Premiere to all the pictures and can hear the goings on. And he heard Ben Whitehouse, who was an interventionist TMO. He heard Ben Whitehouse saying to the TMO, or saying to the director, excuse me, Whitehouse is the TMO, saying to the French director, can you show me more angle? Can I see that again? And the director said, that's all I have.
Hmm.
And so Whitehouse is like, "Ugh, I can't be stopping the game every 2 minutes. Come on, let it
Yeah,
go."
you're in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah,
So
and then afterwards, obviously, we get all the other angles, which he
sure,
was, oh, don't have it, come see, come sa.
yeah.
Um, I mean, the French director thing has become a bit of an in joke, really, in rugby. You kind of, well, we're not going to see that.
Well,
It's
the
crazy though.
surprisingly to me, Joe, is that it's taken so long to actually call it out.
Yeah,
It's gone on for years.
yeah,
Been on for years. I mean, I remember years ago in France, if it was a foul play, potential foul play, even before TMOs, the if a French player was involved in foul play, you probably wouldn't see a replay of it. And on the other hand, if it was the other team, you'd see 5 or 6 replays of it. So they've always put a thumb on the scales, the French directors, in terms of what they show and what they don't show. It's been on for years. And how do you fix it? Well, I suppose the only way to fix it is have proper protocols in place, and you mandate the television companies that supply the feed that the TMO is in charge of everything, and you give them what they want. There's no doubt there's enough cameras there. You probably have 30 cameras at that game at
mm,
least. So I just think it's, again, it's the old story. We get to a point where we see something, bit of injustice, and it could have been, didn't have to happen, but because World Rugby or European Rugby, who are in charge of the tournament, aren't in front of it, now they're chasing it. And this, it makes no sense to me that a TMO who's going to make key decisions around the outcome of the game doesn't have all access to all information available to them. But we've seen this for years, and now it's come to the fore because of a couple of incidents. So I'm not shocked, but
no,
now I expect what will happen is that European Rugby will have to step in and say, this is what we want, and this go forward, this is what has to happen. But not before time, in my view.
no. That's the main. It's just comical when it
Yeah.
has such a tangible effect in the game that has been going on for so long, so kind of glaringly.
No, yeah, it's been obvious for years. I
Yeah,
mean, but people just put their hands in the air, the French to
yeah,
shrug,
yeah,
c'est la vie, But it's been going on. I've noticed it for years. Probably it's coming to the forefront more now because the TMO interventions are more frequent, and they're actually a bigger part of the game. But before that, TMOs firstly didn't exist, and secondly, when they did come in, they were very limited. So now it's the TMO is thrown more front and center now. So it's going to be more incidents, and there's going to be more need for proper exposure of what's happening on the field, and then we get into this over and back about it.
yeah. Well, it's been confirmed there'll be an independent broadcast director for the final. I think.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I think an English-speaking Spaniard is what I read. But anyway,
I wonder why.
yeah. Before you go, Ulster against Exeter, they were 3 points up at half time and won very well in the end by 17 in
Yeah.
Belfast. So they're into a final now against Montpellier, which would obviously guarantee them Champions Cup next year, which is very significant. And one match versus the several they would have to play in the URC. And also just for Richie Murphy, just the organisation generally, like a European trophy in Bilbao on that Friday night, it will really feel like a big thing.
Yeah.
So they're on the cusp. They have Montpellier.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to Richie and to Ulster, they look like a happy team at the moment, if I want to put it that way. They're playing with a smile on their face. They're having a go. They're full of energy, and they're playing a great brand of rugby. They're getting to the edges. They've got strength on the wings. They have power in the middle of the field. They have two big centres. I mean, they're a hard team to pin down, and they have a decent pack of forwards that'll go to war. So, but they're putting really together a really good game. It's very attractive to watch. And the thing about Ulster now at the moment is Ulster used to go through bad patches in games where they would be going well and then they'd fall off for 20 minutes and get themselves in a pickle. They seem to have eradicated that for the most part, that they're generally keeping their foot on the pedal and going to war for the 80 minutes, which is a big plus for them. But I have to say, at the moment, they're playing great rugby. They look like they're playing with a smile on their face, which is a big plus. And will they beat Montpellier? I think it's a big reach for them, to be honest.
Right.
I do think it's probably a big reach for them, but it's a final. They've nothing to lose here.
What kind of side are Montpellier, Eddie? Or what do they bring to the
They're
party?
classic. They're a classic top 14 team. They'll be strong on the set piece. They'll be very physical. They'll see it as a home game in Bilbao, and they will. They've gone. The question with the French teams: do they want to win the tournament? Are they interested in it? And it seems that they want to win it. They've been number one seed throughout the Challenge Cup, and they've just followed through on it the whole way. So it's a tough one for Ulster, but I think they're in nothing to lose territory. Even if they don't win this, it'll be a really good season for them, no matter what comes out of it.
Yeah.
So there's no real pressure on them, which is good because that takes pressure off them in a sense that they can go out and play and see what happens. And they could well do it. They're playing a really good brand of rugby. I don't see how they can say that they won't win it. They could very easily win it, but they'd have to put in a really good performance, which they've been doing for the moment. So no reason to be pessimistic about it, that's my view.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny, if you press pause on the national rugby mood after Stade de France opening night of the Six Nations, you would have said Irish rugby is in ruins. And now we're off the back of very good Six Nations, women's team going very well in the Six Nations, and 2 provinces in 2 European finals. It's like...
I would caution the Six Nations one, Joe, because we talked about this, is that I think the success of the Six Nations was based on Tonkin, England, in Twickenham, which is not an easy thing to do, but England were a bit of a free fall. And then finishing the season with a really, really strong performance against Scotland. I mean, the other 3 games, I mean, we could have lost Italy if that forward pass and the non-forward pass. We struggled against Wales and we got a hiding in Paris. So I think there's a little bit of euphoria at the end. And as I said, I was as happy as anyone to see them celebrating a Triple Crown, because we often poo-poo Triple Crowns.
Yeah.
But it was a good finish to the season for Ireland. Whether everything is turned in their favour yet, I think is another discussion.
No, fair
but
point.
like, take the upswing when you get it. Is my point.
Yeah. I'm positioning that as after that night in Stade de France, it felt like they'd never win a game
Correct.
again.
Yeah, absolutely. We thought like they were at the gates of hell, but no, we're not. We're not.
That's brilliant stuff throughout. Thanks so much, Eddie.
Thanks, Joe.
Eddie O'Sullivan there, and again our rugby coverage with thanks to Energia.